and for his for everything. He couldn't even say good morning. He couldn't even stand in the corner and pray. Everyone would come over. Everyone would want to spend time with him. So he prays and he says, you know what? God, do me a favor. Make me unpopular. Make people not like me. So Sukkot arrives, and no one's interested in talking to him. No one even says hi to him anymore. So he had a non-Jew. He hired a non-Jew and a local contractor to help him build his sukkah. And he needed tools. Couldn't borrow any tools because no one liked him. He was despised. And he finishes davening, and he comes to his sukkah. He invited guests. No one would join him. This guy, no one liked him. Comes to his sukkah and he sees that even the Ushpizin, it's tradition that every night of Sukkot there are spiritual guests that join us in the sukkah. On the first night it's Abraham, the second night it's Isaac, third night it's Jacob, Moshe, Aaron, David, Solomon. So there's different, each night a different person comes, joins us in the sukkah. He sees it's the first night of Sukkot, and Abraham is standing outside his sukkah. And he says, Abraham, come into my sukkah. He says, I can't go into your sukkah, there's no guests. So he prays to Hashem and he says, let people find favor in my eyes. So, what are these Ushpizin? What are these guests, Abraham, that we mentioned? Moses, Aaron, Yosef, and David. Sorry, Moses, Aaron, Yosef, and David, not David and Solomon. They visit each night, and it personifies the festival of Sukkot. Is that there's guests. There's actually a movie called Ushpizin, which is about funny guests that came. And there's 7 sfirot, also chesed, kindness, gevura, severity. And the 7 sfirot, so each guest represents a sephira, represents a different attribute of God being imbued in our sukkah. Abraham is the paradigm of chesed. Abraham is the kindness. It says in the Medrash that the attribute of kindness came to Abraham. He's completely giving. And it says the attribute of kindness turned to him and said, Abraham, what are we going to do? He turned to God and said, God, what do I do? Abraham's taken over my job. So Abraham is the ultimate of kindness, the ultimate of giving. And Abraham says, how can I accept a mitzvah if it's selfish, if it doesn't include others? And during Corona, it's a challenge for many people, because how do you can't invite guests unless it's you have a big enough sukkah that you can have other people. But how are you including other people? Even if you're not having them as guests for a meal, how are you including them in your holiday, in the holiday of Sukkot? Abraham is a role model of kindness, and many Jewish people are a role model of kindness. There are some that aren't, but many are. And being extra kind is a Jewish trait. It's in our DNA. We got it from Abraham. Just like if my grandfather has certain things that are in his DNA, they may be in my DNA, so too, it might be the same exact thing from the other side. If Abraham has kindness in his spiritual DNA, then most Jewish people should have that as well. But kindness is not only about me giving to others. It's about my own spirituality. My own spirituality is only spiritual if I share it with others. Selfish spirituality is not spirituality. That's one of the messages of this story. Pinchas Kartzer was a holy Jew. But for a moment, while he prayed that he should be despised so that he can serve God, it became clear to him on Sukkot that no, this isn't the way. Spirituality that you can't share with others. True, he may not have had time. He may have lost his personal time, his personal space. But your personal space, while it's important, it's more important to share the spirituality you have. In the words of the Rebbe, if you know Aleph, teach Aleph. If you know something, teach it to someone else. and that's what joy is. When one eats and drinks and feeds the stranger and the orphan and the widow and the poor, they're happy. But someone who locks the door and they hang out with only their children and they don't help other people, that's not the joy of a mitzvah, even if it's the holiday of Sukkot. That's the joy of your stomach. The Salanter says a story. There's a story about the Salanter that there's a person who was eating fish, and he says, do you like fish? He says, why are you eating fish? And he said, oh, because I love fish. He says, is this what you do to everyone you love? You take them out of the water, and you fry them, and you spice them, and then you eat them? It's not, you don't like fish. You love your stomach. You love the taste. You don't love fish. You love yourself. Spirituality, is it love of God or love of me? Is it love of a mitzvah or love of my stomach? So the question we have to ask ourselves, especially this year, is how are we sharing the joy of Sukkot with others while staying safe and following local health guidelines? Can we share? Can we share?